Well, hello, and welcome to Opal City Confidential, a Starman podcast. We are covering, we're back in Arizona, uh, following the adventures of Will Payton, the Starman prior to Jack. We're going to be covering issues 21 and 22 of Starman Volume 1. And let's get the pertinent data from Mike's Amazing World, and then we're going to get going. This cover dated April 1990, was released on February 27th, 1990. Cover price of $1. Ooh, $1 comic. Great. Editor Brian Michael Augustin. The title of the story is Things Fall Apart. It features Starman Will Payton. It is written by the amazing Roger Stern, penciled by the amazing Tom Lyle, inked by the amazing Scott Hanna, lettered by the amazing Robert Pinaha, and colored by the amazing Carl Gafford. Main character, of course, is the Will Payton Starman. Also in this comic are Jane Payton, his sister, Marie Payton, his mom, Carol Simmons, his love interest, and soon-to-be ex-boss. Villains are drunk ex-husband. Guest appearances of Lois Lane and Guy Gardner, just little cameos. Some other characters are introduced, but we're going to get to the pertinent data. Will Payton attempts to resume his normal life after a week fighting forest fires as Starman. However, when he returns to work, he is fired. His friends are still away or busy. Jane is upset with him for not reaching out to his mother. Depressed, Will leaves town and arrives in Tucson. He soon encounters a hostage situation. He offers to help the police, and he rescues a woman from her abusive ex-husband. However, the man pulls a second gun and shoots Starman in the back at close range. The gun explodes in the man's hand, killing him. Starman feels guilty. Starman heads to the desert where he removes his costume and assumes a new identity. He then walks back to Phoenix and gives the costume to his sister before disappearing to find himself. I have to say, this is an amazing comic. It is, as I harp on, about character. It's about Will. It's about the turmoil. It's about the soap opera aspect of comics that I love. I'm going to start with the introduction. It's one, the cover's great. It's his costume hanging from a cactus and a person walking away from it. It says "Hero No More." And then the narration the narration starts as about a third of Arizona belongs to the Sonora Desert. Here people don't really perspire so much as they have the moisture wicked away from their bodies. For now, nature still rules this land. Still, every year, more people move to this region to live and work and to die. And that's a great intro to this because you see the costume, you see Starman's costume hanging from a cactus, and this man in a leather jacket, jeans, a turtleneck, a fedora, a beard, and he's got a backpack on. And more narration. Yellow and purple, very striking, but no cactus ever wore a bloom like this. The cloth betrays not a single tear or snag. It's obviously something special. The design is distinctive as a trademark. It says Starman. It would be a shame to leave it here. A man could have a hard time living up to a name like that. Starman is a powerful name. He'd have to shoulder a lot of responsibilities. Probably mean make a lot of enemies. So that narration is the splash page, and then this page with this new character, supposedly, grabbing the costume, walking to the desert. And then we flash back to Starman at the end. He's at the fire department, the Air Force Base after the fire. He's just being debriefed by the Air Force. Why they're in brown uniforms, I don't know. The Air Force has never worn brown uniforms. But he's lamenting the battle with Melrose and Jared, the guy that was in the armor, and two pilots died. But the two pilots he rescued show up and said, our buddy's funeral is today. Our buddy's, plural, funeral. So he goes and he gives his condolences to the wife of one pilot and the parents of another. And he watches the jet tribute, the flying formation that happens at most funerals. And then we cut back to the stranger with the beard traveling. And then we cut back to Will just making decisions. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He calls his mom. She doesn't answer. He hangs up before she can answer. And then he wanders off. And we keep cutting back to this in between Jack and this man on this journey. And it's just, I read it. I had no idea. Remember, folks, I'm reading these for the first time. So, and then we see where he gets fired by Carol, and she's, she's sad. She's looking at a picture. The secretary's like, the secretary there is like thinking, I would rather be anywhere but here. She feels bad about it, but, she can't fix Will's problems. And then Will's just walking through Phoenix, and people are watching him. And this little old lady goes, Herb, the look on his face, I wonder what's wrong. And Herb goes, who knows? And we cut back to the guy traveling. There's a thunderstorm, and he's alone in the desert. Now we cut back to Jack having dinner with his sister, and he pisses her off like a brother can piss. Only a brother can piss off a sister when a sibling's not doing what the other one knows is the right thing to do and not listening. So she drives off, and we cut back to the the hiker, and he's given a ride. He refuses a ride. He's just kind of walking through the desert. We cut back to Will. He calls Star Lab looking for Dr. Faulkner. She doesn't answer. He calls Metropolis, gets Lois Lane. She doesn't help him try to find Superman. He calls Justice League International Headquarters, gets Guy Gardner, who's useless. And then we see Jack fly off, and he decides to go into a camping store, and he buys camping equipment. And then there is the hostage situation. And it's, there's an explosion. The guy is screaming that he's going to kill his wife. And Jack is, he's helping the police because he's the local hero. I love it. Jack has become, it's Starman. Hey, can you help us? He's like the Superman of Phoenix and Tucson and the Southwest. And I'm loving that. And he flies through the window. He breaks the guy. He knocks the husband down. He squishes his gun. And as he's trying to help the woman who is crying and so scared is when the abusive husband puts a gun in his back, pulls the trigger, and is killed by the exploding gun. And Jack just doesn't know what to do, and the cops are saying it's not your fault. So he flies, he lands in the desert, he drops his mirror, it cracks, he looks at himself, he smashes it, he rips up this bag and everything, and he takes off his costume and hangs it on the cactus tree. He then changes appearance, and he becomes the traveling man. So he walks through the desert until he gets to Jane's, where Jane likes to hang out and with her guitar and the dog and play music. I didn't know the license plate on Jane's car says Sting. I think that's kind of cool. And he says he's sorry, and he's going to walk through the desert, and he gives her the costume. And that's the end of the issue. I love this. It has, again, it's character building, it's world building. We're seeing what's going on in Jack's life. All the traumas he's gone through in the last 6-8 issues is adding up, and he has to go re-examine himself. And he's going to go, walk through the desert, find himself, and clear his mind and see what he's going to do. He's a good hero. I think he realizes that. But, he's got to make decisions, and he's got to clear his mind. And I love this issue. I love the way it's structured. I love the way it jumps. I mean, I didn't know that it was Jack because I don't do any homework until after I've read it. And I love the surprise, and I love that it was about a character, and I love those beats. And I could read comics like this all day long. It was just wonderful. And it's, again, amazing script by Roger Stern and beautiful art by Tom Lyle and Scott Hanna. I'm really starting to really, really love these characters more and more every issue. So let's move on to 22, because 22 is a good comic too. This it's cover dated May 1990, published March 27th, 1990. Again, by Michael Gustin. It has the exact same creative staff: Stern, Lyle, Hanna, Pinaha, and Gafford. The story is called Stories from the Land of Spirits. Starman's the main character. We see Jane and Marie in this. Deadline's the bad guy. We see a character called Dr. Moon. He last appeared in Firestorm, the Nuclear Man 98, and doesn't appear again until Action Comics 654. There's an armed robber. We meet Alan Markham, a movie director, and the cast and crew. The synopsis for this one: Starman gets away from civilization for a few months to find himself. While walking in the desert, he stumbles upon a movie being filmed. The director wants him to help out as a stuntman, but Will turns him down. Later, he reconsiders after stopping a holdup at a local diner. Will helps complete the movie stunts. He then accepts the director's offer to further explore opportunities in Hollywood. This has a great cover with him in his Indiana Jones costume. Looks like he's their Canuds battling people in the desert. And on the cover it says, Invasion Redo, but it's not. Then with a splash page is Deadline putting a ray gun through Starman. And he is practicing killing Starman. They are robots, it looks like, and it's a really good sequence. I really like this. It's Dr. Moon's the bad guy. He's an Asian mad scientist evil villain. It's kind of, oh, I know what character is. See, he's not, nowadays he wouldn't be that appropriate. I'm opening up. Dr. Moon first appeared in Detective Comics 569. He is evil mad scientist. But he's helping Deadline train to kill Starman. But then we cut to Starman's walkabout. So that's a setup for later, which is great. I like this. We're getting the next part set up in the old, at the top of the other one. It gives you a little action. We see him leaping through the desert. He finds a little turtle on its back, a tortoise, and he flips it over. He drinks water just to taste it. He doesn't need food anymore. He can walk for as long as he wants. He's sitting under a tree and it's the middle of the night. He makes his face shine so he can see. And then he thinks back. He's thinking about family and the costume. And then we find Jack's mom, Marie, and Jane talking about how hurt her mom is about Jack not telling her first. But Jane explains why Jack did it. He was frustrated and angry and trying to deal with a father he didn't know, and he just came out. And Marie comes to her senses, and there's a big hug. It's very sweet. Then we cut to him walking through the desert. He sees a helicopter that is trailing smoke and about to crash. And then he comes upon what looks like Canud battling soldiers and with crashed helicopters. And he doesn't turn into Starman, but he uses his powers, and he flies down, and he knocks some of the Cuds down. And he realizes he knocks one of their heads off, and then another one comes up behind him and says, "You hurt Curly, you stupid son of a," and hits him with this gun, and it breaks over his head. And that's when he realizes it's costumes and it's a prop gun. And the director, Alan Markin, comes looking very Steven Spielberg-esque. Steven Spielberg from Arizona. Comes up and offers him a job, and he's sad when he flies away. But he figures out that Jack's a metahuman. And Jack flies to a diner, to another town, and he's eating at the diner. And he's thinking about the man he killed because someone's holding up the gun. And he's like, if I don't stop him, if I try to stop it and bullets bounce off me, I could kill the woman who's the waiter. So what he does instead, he blocks the door. And when the guy goes, he does it super fast. The guy's like, how'd you get here? And he just grabs the guy's hand and squeezes it and takes the gun away. And the old lady, the waitress, is going to hit him with a crowbar. But what Will does, he bends the steel and wraps the crowbar around the chair leg and says, call the police. And then the next thing we know, he's back on the movie set. He's in the Canud costume and he's doing all the stunts. And then Markham convinces him, hey, you did a great job. And Markham's got this weird flying car because he's so rich, I guess. And they fly off to Hollywood. Again, I'm really digging this. I like that we're going to see Jack go and walkabout and learn stuff about himself. And I don't know what's coming up next. So I like serialized comics like this. And I'm just enjoying it. The art's beautiful and the stories are great. And I'm really digging what Jack's going through. And I don't care how long this takes. I don't want it to last, 20 issues. But if this lasts 4 or 5 issues, I think this is a good way to tell this story and get you again. Comics, maybe I don't think Stern puts too much dialogue in his comics. I think he has a very, very good balance between narration and dialogue and thought balloons. And he really, when he understands characters, and he's hitting at all cylinders, which he is in this comic. Is it as good as his Avengers run? To me, no, but that's my personal preference. But I think it's probably my second. This is my second favorite Roger Stern series right now. No, hands down. And it's becoming important to me as a reader, and that's a good. I mean, I'm liking it. I'm really enjoying it. These are fun comics. I hope you're reading along. I hope you are enjoying the podcast. Please feedback what you thought of these comics. I'd love it. It would just be great. Bob Sherman, I read his email the other day. He's a big supporter of the podcast and comments on some of the stuff I post. But I'd love to hear more what you all say. So we'll be back next week with another Jack story, and we're going to get back to covering Ted. And it's the story about the magic poster, so I'm excited. Well, actually, it's a prologue, a little more mist action going on here, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping to this is going up a day late, but that's okay. Work's busy, life's busy, but everything's cool and dandy. I'm going to be recording with the amazing Billy from Magazines and Monsters and All-Star Squad, World on Fire and All-Star Squadron podcast. We're going to cover a crazy Batman detective comic. And me and him are going to talk Defenders again, so that'll be your weekend episode. All right, folks, as always, be safe, be smart, please be kind to one another, and read some comics. Read some Roger Stern comics.